Welcome back to the week 4 edition of my weekly NFL Pick'em. Oh, it's week 6 already? My bad, I must be getting old or something. But that wouldn't be the last time that the number 4 came into play this week, and I'll touch on all that throughout this video. But on top of the Tom Brady thing, we had a rookie wide receiver put up 4 touchdowns. We had the defensive player of the year putting up 4 sacks. We had LeBron James winning his 4th title. But the biggest one for me is that we had to sacrifice number 4 Dak Prescott. But I'll get into my feelings a little later. Despite all this off the field drama that we've had to deal with, we are already a third of the way into the season. There were a lot of changes to the schedule, so I'm doing my best to try and keep up, but this is the current structure of week 6 as of Wednesday evening. Hopefully we don't get any more COVID surprises that result in cancellations, reschedulings, and all that good stuff. We don't have a Thursday night football game because the Titans were able to get their stuff under control, so this is literally one of the longest breaks that we're going to have without a football game all season long. So be sure to take advantage of it. Go spend some time with some friends and family or something. The goal for this video is going to be 500 likes once again. I want to thank you guys for all the support last week. I know I had a bit of a moment there, but you guys' feedback in the comments really helps me get my head back on straight and keep my eyes on the prize here. So let's jump right into these week 6 games. On Sunday, first up, we've got Texans versus Titans. The Texans, they finally got a win against the Jaguars, and I find it hilarious that Brandon Cooks, the last major move that Bill O'Brien made for the Texans, absolutely goes off in the very first game with Bill O'Brien gone. I think that Romeo Crennel will get this defense back on track, and removing Bill O'Brien from the offense could jumpstart Deshaun Watson, but I don't have very high hopes for this team moving forward anymore. I'm sure that they'll play spoiler a few times, but ultimately just win games to mess up the draft pick that they gave the Dolphins. As for the Titans, holy hell, that was an ass kicking of the Bills. Everyone, including myself, was banking on the rust holding the Titans back, but they were fresh, rejuvenated, and seemingly eager to take the league villain role for their inability to get the COVID outbreak under control. Honestly, this is the most anyone has ever talked about the Titans, so I'm sure they're just happy for some attention. The biggest issue with that COVID outbreak is that this Titans team is legit one of the best 7-8 teams in the league, and their games need to be played. We can't have an uneven number of games played, or playoff season could be a real pain in the ass. By the way, the NFL is exploring the idea of making a playoff bubble, which would be really cool. After watching the NBA's success with it, it might be the best option to avoid these issues when the games are really important. Now, the Titans, they're going to slip up eventually on the football field too, and this might be the perfect recipe for them to lose on a short-ish kind of week. But I'm going to go with the more talented team with the better coaching right now. Titans win 34-28. Browns versus Steelers. I owe everyone an apology on Chase Claypool. I was stubbornly sticking to my guns that he was just another big Notre Dame wide receiver that might end up as a tight end in the NFL. If you're wondering what I did wrong, I left Chase Claypool out of my top 10 wide receivers in the 2020 NFL draft video that I posted. I posted that the morning of the day he actually went off at the NFL Combine and ran that 4.3. So that video was not taking into account the actual Combine numbers. I actually said in the video I wanted to make a video ranking these guys without the Combine influencing the way that I saw these guys as football players. That actually ended up being the most watched video on this channel by far, and I think that the Chase Claypool debate in the comments was a solid contributor to that. It wasn't even until the Steelers took him and announced him as a wide receiver that I felt like maybe I'd made a horrible mistake. His 4 touchdown performance was really impressive, and he looks like a different player out there. And I promise he's not playing at the 240 or whatever he was listed at the NFL Combine. If he's 240, then he carries it like the alleged 280 that LeBron carries. I don't believe either number is a real playing weight for those guys, but the point there is that he is a special athlete. So please accept my wallpaper of the week as a formal apology. Let's get back to this game against the Browns. They are coming off an impressive and gritty win against one of the tougher defenses, but this Steelers defense might be the alpha defense in the league. Not to mention the Browns haven't actually won a game in Pittsburgh since 2003. Their offense is finding a nice balance of rushing and passing, but they are about to run into the second-ranked run defense, so it's going to take a big game from Baker Mayfield to pull this one out. And even though the Browns offensive line is improved, the Steelers have 4 players in the top 20 in sacks, and they've played 1 game less than everybody else. Good luck, Baker. Steelers win 27-17. Ravens versus Eagles. The Ravens are essentially coming off of a walkthrough against the Bengals, and the Eagles are coming out of a boxing match with one of the most physical teams in the league. It might seem like the previous week would benefit the Ravens, but personally, I'm interested to see the competitive edge that a team comes out with after blowing a team out like that. It's easy to get complacent and assume that it'll be easy to execute once again, and then on the other side, they say iron sharpens iron, and the Eagles just took it to one of the best defenses in the league. The forgotten man in the Chase Claypool game was former Lions 6th round pick Travis Fulgham from Little ODU. He did the most damage for the Eagles in a breakout game for this young journeyman. He had 10 catches for 152 and a touchdown on a whopping 13 targets. Let's see if he's got a follow-up game for that. This battle of the birds has upset potential, especially if Lamar Jackson's knee is hurt a little bit more than they're leading on, but he should be another week removed from the injury and the tummy ache, so hopefully he can start getting back to that MVP form against the Eagles secondary that just got torched by Chase Claypool. Maybe even Miles Boykin shows up this week. But I think that this Ravens defense should be able to overwhelm Wentz and get pressure against this offensive line. Ravens win 38-28. Washington versus the Giants. The Alex Smith comeback story got thrusted into the final chapter a lot faster than Ron Rivera probably would have liked, and just in time to have Aaron Donald bearing down on the poor guy, making the timing of the Dwayne Haskins benching all the more confusing. I think Kyle Allen will be back in the starting lineup this week against the Giants, who were able to find some offensive rhythm against the Cowboys last week, as has everybody else that's played them this season. But this is going to be an ugly game of two bad teams with kind of underrated defenses and weak offensive lines. It's going to be all about which team keeps their quarterback upright the most. The Giants have allowed 38 quarterback hits through the first 5 weeks, while Washington's given up 40, both of which are ranked in the bottom 5 of the league. The Giants also have the 28th ranked passing attack, and Washington has the 30th. Woof. I guess I'll take the slightly better passing game in New York. Giants win 23-16. Falcons versus Vikings. Falcons, they finally fired Dan Quinn about 2 years too late. At 0-5, it was just in time though for the Falcons to continue their tradition of making a late run, to ruin their draft pick, and still miss the playoffs by a game or two. The Falcons had 2 former Tampa Bay head coaches to choose from as their interim head coach, and they went with the defensive guy in Raheem Morris, who has his work cut out for him. The Vikings are also in a scary place for Mike Zimmer, whose 25th ranked defense has him on the hot seat for the first time since he was hired as their head coach. On offense for the Vikings, they might have to win this one without Dalvin Cook, who's been the key for them this year. Alex Madison is a really capable backup, but he lacks the home run burst that Cook has. If Dalvin Cook doesn't play, I'm going with Raheem Morris jump-starting the Falcons roster to win this one on the road. Falcons win 35-34. Lions versus Jaguars. This little cat fight has potential to be more entertaining than some of the typical matchups of below average squads. The defenses aren't great, and the offenses have weapons that can do damage in the right scenarios. This just happens to be one of those scenarios. The Lions are coming off their bye week, and Matthew Stafford lives for these games against losing teams. Lions win 31-24. Bengals versus Colts. The Bengals are going to get Joe Burrow killed out there. Burrow is saying all the right things, like I got to get the ball out faster and whatnot, but if you don't want a David Carr situation, then something needs to be done to help this guy out, and fast, because the Bengals face another tough defense this week. The Colts, they're going to win games when the game is not in Phillip Rivers' hands. I feel like I say this every single week. If you put him in position where he needs to throw you back into the game, the result in Cleveland is what you're going to get more often than not, especially at this point in Phillip Rivers' career. You've got to be thinking about Jacoby Brissett giving a chance here at some point, but just not yet. The Colts have a good schedule to get back on track in the next few weeks. They got the Bengals, and they have a bye, and they have the Lions, and then pops up the Ravens in week 9, and then the schedule turns into a gauntlet. I will be shocked if Rivers makes it through all the way to week 15 playing like this. But in this one, the Bengals just aren't ready for this yet. Colts win 26-14. Bears versus Panthers. Nick Foles has this unique ability to play like 3 different quarterbacks throughout one game. You never know what you're going to get on a play-to-play basis from this guy. One minute he's missing wide open touchdowns, the next minute he's throwing lasers with precision. He's going to make this Bears team impossible to predict down the stretch. I picked the Panthers to go into Atlanta last week, and they didn't let me down. Teddy Bridgewater has been crushing it ever since Christian McCaffrey went out and the team was put on Teddy's back. These two teams both have really good records, are playing hard each and every week, yet I still can't take either one seriously. The Bears are off to their best start since 2012 and appear to have the superior roster on paper, but that's just because the Panthers are doing this with some Joe Schmoes on defense. And you know what? That's almost not even fair, because we all probably know a lot of these guys from studying the draft like we do, but the Brian Burnses and the Derek Browns haven't reached Khalil Mack or Akeem Hicks status just yet, but you have to be impressed with the way that these rookies are holding up. The trick for the Panthers to reach their full potential down the road is keeping offensive coordinator Joe Brady from getting a head coaching job. Probably won't happen. You might be able to shield him for this year just because he's so young and it's a weird year, but Joe Brady's going to be a head coach in the NFL within the next 2 seasons. Oh yeah, Panthers win 23-21. Broncos versus Patriots. This is the second time I've broken this down, but that's okay, let's do it again. After this game was delayed, the starting quarterbacks are both positioned to rejoin their teams this week, which blows my mind for both parties. Drew Lock's shoulder is still going to be susceptible to re-aggravating the injury, and I feel like Cam Newton shouldn't even have full lung capacity yet. Don't get me wrong, I want to see both these guys back out there, but at what cost? Until we get a little bit more information from the teams, it's impossible to gauge what will happen in the days leading up to this game, but I'm going to play it safe and bank on Belichick at home. 9.5 points is a lot if Drew Lock is playing against a backup quarterback for the Patriots, so bettors beware of this one. Patriots win 27-23. Jets versus Dolphins. What a dumpster fire the Jets are turning into. Congrats though to Le'Veon Bell for getting freed from the mess, still getting his money, and now getting to latch on with a Super Bowl contender, assuming he doesn't want to take the rest of the year off and tweet from his couch in Miami again. Adam Gase won't give up play calling duties for the Jets, and I guess this captain insists on going down with the ship. The Dolphins got lucky with a COVID schedule change here because this game was going to be in week 9. Adam Gase might have been long gone by then, but I hope Brian Flores takes his old Patriots game plans for the Jets and cooks up something for Gase that gets this dude fired before they hit the flights home. Dolphins win 35-16. Packers versus Buccaneers. Number 12 versus number 12 for probably the last time ever. I'm glad they both at least got decent teams right now, and the fact that this is an NFC matchup this time around makes it even juicier. Both teams are coming off some extra rest time, with the Packers having their bye and the Bucs' last game being on a Thursday night. The Bucs should have won that game, by the way. It was terribly officiated the whole time because the league wants Chicago to be relevant for as long as possible, yada yada. But that part won't be remembered from that game. The only thing we're going to remember is Tom Brady forgetting that it was 4th down. Guys, there's no cure for Alzheimer's, so let's hope that this was just a blip on the old man's final journey here, because the GOAT can't go out like that. Imagine the Buccaneers losing in the NFC Championship game because he forgets what down it is. Packers, they've had relatively an easy schedule thus far, and this Bucs defense is going to be a big test for them. Aaron Rodgers might have Devontae Adams back after letting his hamstring heal over the bye, and he could be the difference maker for them in this game. However, I remember the Packers offense struggling to find an identity last year when Adams came back into the lineup. It was like Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams couldn't coexist together in the game plan. They've been the highest scoring offense in the league so far without him, but that's more of an indictment of the poor defenses they faced. Tom Brady has owned the matchup of the number 12s thus far, and I'm really torn here because I've always rooted for Aaron Rodgers in those previous matchups, but I feel like the Bucs get things back on track here. Bucs win 38-35. On Sunday Night Football, we've got Rams versus 49ers. So as another thank you guys for all of your support, I made a bonus wallpaper of the week featuring Aaron Donald, who was dominant yet delicate enough with Alex Smith and his quote-unquote strong leg, as he put it. After sweeping the NFC East, the Rams are coming back to California for a primetime matchup against the 49ers, who are just depleted. I mean, the lack of talent around the quarterback is exposing whoever is playing back there. I think Trent Williams might be the only guy earning his paycheck on a regular basis on that offense. Someone made a comment about the 49ers getting hit with the Super Bowl loser curse, and I think you're right. The extra grind of last season and then not enough time to get your body back for this season is definitely a factor into the injuries that the 49ers have faced this year. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan gets the squad ready for this one though, and honestly, hopefully it ends up like that Thursday Night Football matchup between these two teams right before they both went on to rep the NFC in back-to-back Super Bowls. I had to look it up, but it was 41-39. It was back in 2017, and Brian Hoyer was the 49ers starting quarterback. So Jimmy G better get his pretty little head on straight, or the 49ers are going to be looking at quarterbacks this offseason. Matt Ryan. The Rams are just a much better team right now. Rams win 26-20. All right, guys, and on Monday Night Football, we've got the Cardinals versus the Cowboys. Just kidding, I'm not that depressed, but I am pretty sad, and I've got a lot of notes written down for this one, but if it ends up as kind of a ramble fest, I apologize. But losing your starting quarterback is never fun, but losing your starting quarterback to an injury so severe is pretty devastating. But it was also somewhat refreshing to see the response around the league and all the support shown for Dak Prescott. And I know last week I talked about wanting to make more instant videos, reactionary videos, and I thought that this was my opportunity to do so with the Cowboys and their future with Dak Prescott. But honestly, I needed some time. Emotionally, I needed to digest it. And with the Cowboys playing on Monday night that following week, it just seemed like a perfect opportunity to slide it on into the Pick'em video. And I'm glad that I did, because I already see so much BS being spewed out there about Dak Prescott's future. And I'll get to all that stuff in a second, but I don't want to discredit the person, the man that is Dak Prescott. This dude is a leader, a warrior. He's faced more adversity in the first 28 years of his life than a lot of people do in a lifetime. And his 2020 has probably been worse than your 2020. And I never really even brought up that guy Skip Bayless and his comments about Dak from earlier in the year when Dak was talking about mental health. And so much of our mental health is based around the events and different circumstances that we face on the regular. My job actually used to be working with kids that struggled with mental health issues, so I really appreciated the fact that Dak Prescott was using his platform to address the topic and normalize it in a macho man environment where things like that are usually frowned upon or mocked or, you know, just told to rub some dirt on it or man up, you know? And I think that stuff has actually gotten through to society quite a bit, because maybe I wasn't looking for it, but I didn't see a single person mocking the dude for crying. I think everybody realizes that there was so much pressure on this guy going into the season, betting on himself. He'd never been hurt before. He'd lost his brother to suicide. He had to deal with COVID just like any one of us. And yes, he was making a ton of money on the franchise tag from the Cowboys, but his future financials were not secure. And you knew that every single time that he had to go out and practice, there had to be a little tiny concern in the back of his mind that he could get injured every single time he steps out onto a field. And that's exactly what happened. If you ever need proof of life not being fair, Joe Flacco did the exact same thing and went out a Super Bowl champion. But anyways, Jerry Jones commented that Dak Prescott will no doubt return to the position of leadership and purpose that he brings to the Dallas Cowboys. And that was made immediately after the game, where I think that Dak's future as a starting quarterback might be in question because of the injury. But this isn't a knee injury, this is an ankle injury. Dak is mostly a pocket passer who can move around. I don't think it's going to affect him that much physically. So before we get into all the clickbaity articles this offseason about Dak's future and which team he ends up on, I already seen something about the Colts. Come on guys, Dak Prescott is not going anywhere. How much are they going to pay him? I have no idea, but Jerry Jones is a smart guy and he undoubtedly saw the response from around the league and around the country for Dak Prescott. He's not going to let a marketable quarterback such as Dak Prescott leave in these circumstances. All right, but let's talk about the Cowboys this year with Andy Dalton. Other than his first and final seasons with the Bengals, his lowest passer rating was an 83. He's averaged 10 wins for 5 seasons, and he has an 0-4 record in the playoffs. That'll set the Cowboys up nicely for another one-and-done playoff appearance. But Andy Dalton is fighting for a decent veteran starting quarterback contract in 2021, probably with the Buccaneers or the Patriots or something. And this offense is loaded, so I think that he's going to produce and put up a lot of numbers. Maybe not quite the pace that Dak Prescott was on, but he was on pace for like 6,000 passing yards or something ridiculous. So what we saw though in that game, even before the Dak Prescott injury against the Giants, we saw Ezekiel Elliott and DeMarcus Lawrence showing up after kind of coasting for the first month of the season, thinking the rest of the talent around them was going to carry them this year. They both commented before the year this was the most talented team that they had been on. But the good players on this team need to step up now to save this Cowboys season. For those that are concerned about the defense, I think that with a change in offensive approach, you could see an improvement in the defense. Look at the Teddy Bridgewater-led Saints from 2019. The defense was top 5 when they had a conservative quarterback and they had a run-heavy offensive attack, and then they fell back with Drew Brees leading higher-scoring offensive attacks on the regular. So long story short, I think that the Cowboys will be fine. They'll probably still win the division, to be honest, which isn't saying much. But let's get back to the Monday Night Football matchup against the Cardinals. I think that this is the stage that Kyler Murray has been waiting for to put on a show. You saw how Baker Mayfield and Myles Garrett elevated their game against the Cowboys in Dallas, and that's because Texas football runs deep. Kyler Murray is a Texas high school god, and he's going to want to put on a show. Plus, the Cardinals don't have a ton of primetime matchups like this, so you got to take advantage. But hey, don't forget, Andy Dalton played high school football in Texas too. Another reason why the Cowboys were able to get him so cheap. He wanted to be closer to home during this strange season. Just don't tell Andy Dalton it's a primetime matchup, or he'll probably crumble from start to finish like he always does. I think that the Cardinals will actually win this one 34-31. And then actually right before that Cowboys and Cardinals game, we get Thursday Night Football on Monday night, Chiefs versus Bills. Now, the Chiefs, they got upset by the Raiders, and I guess they're entitled to an off day, right? Especially in the fourth quarter offensively when you think that they're always going to win the game. They can't continue to put themselves in that position and bat 100%. Plus, now they don't have the weight of that undefeated stress on their head. But I think that we're seeing how big of a difference that the fans make for home field, because the last time the Raiders won in Arrowhead was 2012, and the outcome of that game is probably different if you've got a bunch of screaming fans out there packing that stadium. As for the Chiefs and Bills in this game though, both of these teams probably wish that the other was coming off of a win. I know that the Chiefs will be sharp from kickoff after that wake-up call, but we'll have to see how the new and improved Josh Allen responds to that bad game that he had against the Titans. This is a huge game for both teams with AFC implications, and with a 5 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, I'm psyched to have an entire evening of football on Monday. Poor West Coast guys will still be at work when this game kicks off at 2 p.m. their local time. Hopefully it'll help with that afternoon lull. Chiefs win this one 28-24. All right, now let's break down the Week 5 Pick'em group. Last week, the overall leader for the week was Invercargill Iguana with 12 points. We had a whole bunch of guys with 11 points, and then I was squeezed in, tied for 16th with 10 points. As for the overall leader, it is still Mr. David 2 with 60 total points. Then we've got a 4-way tie for second place with 57. So David 2 is getting a nice little 3-point cushion there. But now we're through the first 5 weeks of the season. I'm going to start leaving this worst period drop setting to yes, so it will drop your lowest point total of each week, which is perfect for me because I have a big fat 0 on there from when I missed my 14-point week. But honestly, I should be tracking my record against the spread because I think I've been killing it. Anyways, that's going to do it for me this week. I hope you guys enjoy your 4 days off from football games. Like I said, go hang out with some friends or family, do some good old fall cleaning. I hope the weather is beautiful where you're at. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you all in the next video.